The President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. The President, Mr. Dutpari, you may now proceed. Dutpari, Mr. President, Civil Party TCCP 89 that has been summoned by the Chamber. As a result, Civil Party is now present at the waiting room. Mr. Ieng Sari, according to document E237, has also waived his right to the testimony of the Civil Party as well. Thank you, Mr. President. The President, thank you, Mr. Dutpari. I would like to know whether fellow judges of the bench wish to put any questions to the witness. Judge Lavergne, you may now proceed.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I do have a few questions, but I shall endeavor to be very swift. Mr. Witness, you stated this morning that prior to the fall of Phnom Penh, you were stationed with your unit in the area called Basit. Do you know if artillery was used to drop bombs on Phnom Penh, leaving from Basit?
Response: yes, there were some firing or mortar shells at that time, but the shells were landed only at the 100 houses location.
Alors, on n'a pas pu entendre toute votre réponse.
I'm afraid we haven't been able to grasp the entirety of your answer, sir. So can you just tell us how drums were bombed on Phnom Penh? Were there very specific strategic targets? Or was Phnom Penh targeted in an indeterminate manner?
Response: I have no knowledge whether bombs were dropped on Phnom Penh because we were foot soldiers and I did not know about this.
Je voudrais maintenant revenir sur ce que vous nous avez déclaré ce matin.
Let us return to what you testified before the court this morning with respect to some of the tactics employed to reveal former Lon Nol soldiers. You stated that speakers were used to send out messages to former soldiers. Did you know where those speakers came from? Were they provided from the division, or where exactly did such equipment come from?
Response: I'm afraid I don't know. I only heard from people in Gun group that the loudspeakers were used to broadcast their announcements.
Et dans votre unité ou dans votre division.
However, within your unit or within your division, did you witness previous use of the loudspeakers?
Response: no, I didn't. I had never seen them being used in the unit before.
Est-ce que ces haut-parleurs ont également servi à diffuser des messages?
Were the loudspeakers used to broadcast messages intended for the general civilian population? Were they used in order to convey the message to civilians to leave Phnom Penh?
Response: Yes, it is correct.
Vous avez également dit que
You also stated that former soldiers were gathered together and taken away, and unless I'm mistaken, you stated that they were gathered by lorry. Is this accurate?
Response: I'm afraid I do not quite catch your question. Are you referring to the Lone Nol soldiers or other soldiers?
Pardon, excusez-moi, effectivement, je n'ai pas été très clair.
Indeed, pardon me. I'm referring to the former soldiers who served under the Lone Nol regime and who were revealed as such, or who surrendered, and who were then gathered in order to be executed. Were those former soldiers transported by lorry?
Response: Yes, they were.
Et est-ce que vous savez d'où venaient ces camions?
And do you know where those trucks or lorries came from? Did they come from the divisions or did they come from elsewhere?
Response: They came from the military, from the Lone Nol soldiers.
Donc c'était le propre militaire, c'était le propre matériel.
Therefore, it was equipment that once belonged to the Lone Nol army. The same trucks that were used to transport former Lone Nol soldiers. Is this correct?
Response: Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Est-ce que lorsque vous étiez à Bassit,
When you were posted in Basit, did you hear any radio broadcasts? And did you hear any messages released by the Funk?
Response: No, I did not listen to any of the radio broadcasts, and I did not even possess a radio nor the battery for such radio.
est-ce que à cette époque vous aviez entendu
At the time, did you hear about a list of 7 super traitors?
Response: No, I didn't.
Vous avez expliqué que vous êtes rentré dans
You told the court that you entered Phnom Penh. I would like to know whether you arrived in Phnom Penh in the immediate wake of the fight. At what point exactly did you enter Phnom Penh?
Response: At that time, every soldier at each unit came to Phnom Penh simultaneously. So it doesn't mean that one unit came to Phnom Penh first and the other came later. So everyone came to Phnom Penh all at the same time. They communicated through radio communication.
Vous avez décrit ce matin la zone qui était affectée
This morning,
de votre unité ou de votre division.
you described the division in which your the zone under which your division was located. And in fact, it was a very vast area. It extended from the central market to the Shroi bridge and encompassing Tolkork. How did you know that the zone fell under the auspices of your particular division? Did you patrol the area? How did you acquire this piece of knowledge?
Response. Bong Hak, the head of the battalion, asked us to stand guard from on the stretch of road from Satmay to kilo number 9.
Alors, pour que les choses soient peut-être plus claires pour tout le monde.
Just to make sure that things are abundantly clear, where exactly is kilometer 9 located?
Est-ce que c'est la route où se situait l'hôpital Calmette?
Is it on the same road on which Calmette Hospital is located?
Response. That location is to the north of the Troi Chongwa Bridge. It is on National Road number 1, or rather number 5.
Donc c'est un point qui se trouve proche de l'endroit qui s'appelle Preknou.
It is a point that is within close proximity of Preknou. It's on National Road 5 leading to Kampong Shnong. Is that correct?
Response. Yes, it is.
Et vous, à ce moment-là,
And you, sir, at that time, were you stationed there exactly? And can you please tell the court what your role was?
Response. I had no role in particular. I was just assigned to station there.
donc vous montiez la garde indifféremment sur
Therefore, you undertook duty at Preknou or the central market, or was there an exact location that you were responsible for patrolling?
Response. I was stationed right across from the Calmette Hospital. Other members of the group would be assigned to cover other stretch part of the road.
à l'hôpital Calmette, vous avez parlé des malades.
You talked about the ill who were in the Calmette Hospital and the conditions in which they were evacuated. Did you see any doctors or medical professionals there? Did you witness the instruction of having the doctors evacuated from Calmette Hospital?
Response. At that time, doctors or medical staff had already abandoned the patients, and when the sick people, hospital patients, were being evacuated, there were no doctors.
Comment le savez-vous? Êtes-vous personnellement...
How did you know that? Did you personally enter the hospital to verify that there was no longer anyone at Calmette Hospital?
Response. Yes, I did enter the hospital to learn that there was no people and there was no doctor. And patients had been evacuated in just 2 days, and the hospital was emptied after 2 days.
Did you have the opportunity to visit other public buildings? Did you have the opportunity to enter the premises of any of the ministries, administrations? Do you know what happened at the National Bank of Cambodia?
Response: No, I didn't. I was not allowed to walk freely or contact any other members other than people in the unit. At that time, the regulation was so strict.
Est-ce que vous avez eu l'occasion, alors que vous étiez de faction sur la route, de voir passer
During the time that you were patrolling the roads, did you see any foreigners? Were there any specific instructions that pertained particularly to foreigners?
Response: I saw a Filipino at a location, the building that was now already demolished. I saw some Filipinos there, but a few days later they were no longer to be seen there again.
Et vous savez ce qui est arrivé à ces Philippins?
And do you know what happened to those Philippine nationals?
Response: I do not know what happened to them. I asked some people about this. I asked them where these Filipinos could have been taken to, but the response was that they did not know.
Monsieur le témoin,
Mr. Witness, when you were assigned across from Calmette Hospital, not far from the Embassy of France, are you telling me that you never saw one single foreigner?
Response: during that time, there was no foreigner, there was no newspaper, so I saw none of them.
et à l'intérieur de l'enceinte de l'ambassade de France,
And within the embassy compound,
vous êtes certain?
you didn't see anyone? There was no one? Are you certain of this?
Response: yes, I am certain. There was no one, no Cambodian, no French national at the U.S. Embassy. Knowing this, we then put some soldiers to be stationed in the complex.
Je ne sais pas s'il y a eu une erreur de traduction.
I'm not sure if we've misunderstood each other. You just referred to the American embassy. I wasn't referring to the U.S. embassy. I'm talking about the Embassy of France. At the time, and at present, the French embassy is located near Calmette Hospital. Are we referring to the same building, sir?
Response: indeed, I was talking about the French embassy, not the U.S. embassy, and there was no one in the compound, no diplomats, no other staff member, nothing.
Quand est-ce que vous avez commencé votre faction?
When did you begin your duty patrolling the area around the embassy of France? Was it right after the fighting or sometime after your entry into Phnom Penh?
Response. Since I had been in Phnom Penh, I had to stand guard at all time, and that was the policy of the Khmer Rouge, that soldier had to be vigilant and stand guard, be on duty at all time.
Donc vous étiez en permanence devant l'ambassade de France?
Therefore, you were permanently assigned in front of the embassy of France. Is that correct?
Response. Yes, it is.
Bien, je n'ai pas d'autres questions.
Very well. I have no further questions to ask this witness. Thank you.
The President, thank you very much, Judge Lavigne. We would like now to hand over to counsels for Mr. Nguyen Chia to put some questions to the witness, if they would like to do so. Counsel Son Arun. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Mr. Son Arun, representing Mr. Nguyen Chia, along with my colleague on the right-hand side. Very good afternoon, Mr. Sum Chia. First of all, allow me to put about 5 questions also to you. First, when you became a soldier in 1972, as you said, and in the document, at that time, you were about 18 years of age. Is that correct? Response, yes, it is. Question. When you joined the army, did you do so by or through the appeal by Prince Norodom Sihanouk, as you indicated? Is that correct? Response, yes, it is. Question. When you became the soldier, you wholeheartedly and voluntarily became the soldier of then Prince Norodom Sihanouk, and that you had no knowledge of the Khmer Rouge. Is that correct? Response, yes, it is. Question. As a soldier of then Prince Norodom Sihanouk in 1972, voluntarily, indeed without any force, coercive measure, and you also stated that you had no radio to listen to radio broadcasts. Could you tell the chamber, please, how you obtained information concerning the appeal to go to the Magi forest or jungle? Response. Indeed, after Phnom Penh was captured, I had no access to radio. But before that, when I was still in the forest, I had access to radio broadcast and radio. And I heard the appeal by the former prince. Question. So at that time, do I understand correctly that you had the radio to listen to the appeal broadcast on radio? From the time when you became the soldier of the former prince, how long had you been a soldier before you became soldier for the Khmer Rouge? Response. It was not until 1980 when I returned home. Question. As a soldier, were you a file and rank soldier, or did you hold any function or rank? Response. I was an ordinary soldier. Council mic is not activated. The President, Council, make sure your mic is activated. Council Sonaron, my apologies. Question. As a soldier, you could have engaged in combats. Have you ever been promoted to any particular rank during this period? Response. I had never been promoted because I was not a kind of person who was brave enough to be promoted.
Up until 1975, and then all along to 1979, and then after that you left the army. I would like to know, can you tell the court whether or not you have ever been promoted to any position in command during the entire period of your service in the military? Response. None. Question. If you did not hold any position in the military, or I can say in general that you are a rank and file soldier, so you are just an ordinary militaryman. And this morning you told the court that you were in one of the squads with 11 other members, and you also told the court this morning that you were not allowed to walk freely. You had to be on duty and you had to stay within your squad. According to this statement, you indicated that only the soldiers from the eastern zone who were very harsh, and they also killed people who denied leaving Phnom Penh city. Did you witness the killing by soldiers from the eastern side by your own eyes, or you simply overheard it from others? Response. I only heard it from others, from comrade in my squad who told me that soldiers killed people who denied leaving Phnom Penh city. That's what I heard from them. Question. So you heard from others. Can you be more specific? Did you hear from your team members who were in your squad, or did you hear from other people? President, please wait until the mic is on before you respond. Witness. Mr. Witness. Yes, I heard from my teammates who were in my squad. Question. You were one of the members in the squad, and you told the court that in your capacity as a soldier, you were not allowed to walk freely. And I assume that other team members were also restricted from walking freely outside of the team. So how did they learn about that information? Response. It was only for those who were assigned to be on duty to stand guard certain places, then they learned that information. Question. According to your testimony earlier this morning, you told the court that when you were progressing to Phnom Penh, each squad were assigned to seize or conquer certain locations. So my question to you is why certain people knew that there were killings by other groups of soldiers? Were they allowed to walk to other places, and you yourself or your team were not allowed to walk? Can you please elaborate on this point? Response. Those who were assigned to stand guard in certain places, they learned that information, and they were the ones who told me about the killing. Question. So is my understanding correct that you were at least allowed to walk from your location to Calamat Hospital? Is my understanding correct? Respond. No, I was not allowed. But we were only allowed to go to Calamat Hospital when we had to change our work shift. For example, if we had to change every 3 hours, then it was at that time that we were supposed to go to Calamat Hospital. Question. Since this morning until now, you have mentioned repeatedly about a man by the name of Gun. Who is Gun? Response. Gun was a former commander of a regiment, but later on he was demoted to an ordinary soldier. He is dead actually now, but he was the one who was quite known to other people that he was a daring man. Question. You have told the court that Kun was the one who assigned to arrest the former soldiers of colonial regimes, and those soldiers who were arrested were eventually killed in somewhere west of Prey Pneu. You have told the court about this. chain of events, so we would like to ask you to enlighten the court as to who Kun really was, whether or not he was in the position of command or he was only an ordinary rank and file soldier, and why was he vested with power to arrest soldiers and kill them. Response. Kun was a very fierce and harsh guy. He was the one who implemented the order straight away without hesitation. So he was the one who was assigned to carry out that task. Question. I know that Kun was the person who implemented the order without hesitation, and I know that he was the one who lured other soldiers to reveal their identities, and then eventually they were arrested and killed west of Red Pno. And I would like to know what position he held at the times, and why did he have power to kill people, and why did you know that he was the person who was responsible for the killing, because you said you were not allowed to walk freely, and how did you know that? In my squad, we were broken into a small group of 3, and we had to change our work shift regularly. So when we were on the shift, we heard the loudspeaker announcement from the loudspeaker, and Kun was the one who was mentioned. Question. I would like to ask for clarification. You said that Kun was the former commander of a regiment, and then he was later on demoted to a soldier, an ordinary soldier, at the same level as yours, and he was supposed to be stationed in certain location, and he was not allowed to walk freely. But my question to you is why Kun was aware of the execution of the former soldiers from Lonol regime, the president. Counsel, I think you may have misunderstood the facts. You probably confused the name, the individuals, the person by the name of Kun who had committed moral wrongdoing, and he was demoted, and there was another Kun who was a former regiment commander, and you have to revisit these facts again, and you have to make sure that you understand the facts very clearly. Otherwise, the witness is confused and he cannot provide you accurate information. If you go and visit the document again, that is not the fact at issue. So you may revisit this fact. Otherwise, we will be all confused, and it will not be useful in ascertaining the truth. So you should put the question that is relevant to the facts. Otherwise, the probative value of the statement may not be of any weight. Counsel, thank you, Mr. President, for your guidance. Counsel, I would like to move on to my next question. You joined the military force supporting Samdech Norodom Sihanouk. since 1972. And when you fought your way to Phnom Penh, you eventually conquered the Lonol government and soldiers. Upon the victory, did you know whether or not the leaders came to Phnom Penh altogether? Samdech Sihanouk came to Phnom Penh a few months after the liberation of Phnom Penh. Question. Before the attack on Phnom Penh, the commanders in each division, for example, you were subordinate to Division 1 and you were also in a squad of 12 members. Before you attacked Phnom Penh, did the commanders train the soldiers in various squads, for example, as to what they were supposed to do once they conquered Phnom Penh? Response. We were not instructed or told anything at all. What the only instruction we received was to fight our way to Phnom Penh and conquer it. And then it was only after we conquered Phnom Penh were we told to evacuate people. Council, thank you, Mr. Witness. I thank you very much for answering my questions, and thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to put the question to the witness, and I would like to hand over to my colleague.
Thank you, Mr. Sonarun, for giving me the floor, and good afternoon to you, Mr. Sumchea. My name is Jasper Pauw. I'm the International Counsel for Nuon Chea. I will try to speak slowly for the benefit of the translators. But if my questions are unclear to you, please do ask for clarification. My first question relates to a topic that you have spoken about briefly, and that's the bombardments by the Americans. You have stated that the bombardments forced you into the movement, but you have not spoken much about the bombardments themselves. Can you tell us, Mr. Sumchea, did you yourself witness American bombardments in the early 1970s?
Yes, the bombardment was everywhere. It was a carpet bombardment, and houses were destroyed. And the reason why there were sentiment for Norodom Sihanouk, it was because of the bombardment. It was the motivation for other soldiers to join his troop.
And did you see one bombardment, or did you see several bombardments over time?
I saw it every day. I saw it. The aerial bombardments every day. It was not for other provinces, but I could say for the province where I resided, it was in Kampong Cham province, and they bombarded every day.
And were any of your relatives or friends killed during those bombardments?
Fortunately, none. Only one of my brothers who was executed. He had worked for Samdai Sayanu as a soldier for 18 years, but when he returned home, 18 months rather, and when he returned home, he was arrested and killed, and he was my elder brother.
And you've stated that you saw these bombardments day after day, and you've stated that these were carpet bombardments. Can you tell us a little bit more about the damage they caused? The material damage, the physical damage?
It was very destructive. Up to around 20 houses in my village alone were burned down. And as for pagodas, they were targets of the attacks as well, and they were all destroyed.
And did you see rice fields destroyed by these bombardments?
Yes, I saw that. So long as there were bushes or forests which were suspected of anything, then they would bombard the area. But now all the holes on the ground were filled.
And you spoke about your brother that was executed. Could you tell us who was responsible for that, as far as you know?
I do not know who actually ordered the arrest and execution of him and his family, because I was in my duty at that time as a soldier. So when I returned home, I learned that he and his family had been arrested and killed. I was engaged in the combat. I was not allowed to return home at that time, and we were fighting with the risk of our life, but never ever had we ever been allowed to return home during that period.
Thank you. And I would like to move on now to the moment that you entered Phnom Penh. And you have described for us how your division occupied the area from Phra Thmei to Cork to the Choi Chang-hwa Bridge, all the way up to kilometer 9. And, Mr. President, with your permission, I would like to show the witness a map on the screen, and it's a map of Phnom Penh, the city. The document number is D108/50/1.2, and I realize that the witness has indicated his reading is poor, but we also have, for convenience, listed the Khmer names on the map. And if we can show that on the screen at least, it might help your chamber and the people in the audience to understand which area of the city we are speaking of. So with your permission, I would like to show the map of Phnom Penh with the names in Khmer as I just read out. Is that possible?
The President, you may proceed.
So, Mr. Witness, I hope you can see on the screen the map as it's being projected. I also have a hard copy for the witness if that might make it easier for him to look at the map. Can I provide the witness with a hard copy?
The President, you may proceed. Court officer is instructed to obtain the hard copy document from the counsel and hand it over to the witness.
I'll give the witness a minute to study the map. So my first question, Mr. Sumchea, is simple. Is this indeed roughly the area that your division was supposed to guard? Sorry, I will repeat the question. I see you are still reading. Mr. Witness, Mr. Sumchea, is this indeed the area that your division was supposed to guard? So the area between Char Tmei, Tulkork, kilometer number 9, and the Choi Chonghua Bridge?
That is correct.
And I see on the map the Psar Chimay indicated. As far as you are aware, did your division go any further south than Psar Chimay during the evacuation of Phnom Penh?
No, we did not, because we had to operate within the boundary we were supposed to do. That was the responsibility of other divisions.
And another structure we can see on the map is Wat Phnom. Can you tell us if your division was responsible for guarding Wat Phnom?
Yes, we did. We did guard areas around Wat Phnom.
Thank you. I will get back to this topic later. But for now, I will move on so the map could be removed from the screen if that makes things more clear. Mr. Sumchia, earlier today you stated that when you arrived at the Calmette hospital that the doctors and the medical staff had already abandoned the patients. My first question is, do you know when the doctors and the medical staff had abandoned the patients?
Response. It was during the day when we engaged in the fighting, and by the time we approached the hospital, it was already abandoned. There were only helpless patients inside.
So did you witness the doctors leaving the hospital, or did you simply see that there were no doctors in the hospital when you arrived?
Response. By the time we entered the hospital, we had seen no doctor at all, only patients, and we were tasked with guarding the compound. And people were seen moving out of the city. It was a chaotic situation. No doctor would remain at the compound.
And do you know the reason why the doctors and medical staff had abandoned the patients and left the hospital?
Response. They were afraid of the gunshots or the fighting, and I think the doctors themselves were also scared.
Mr. President, with your leave, I would like to read to the witness an excerpt from the book Cambodia 1975/1982 by Michael Vickery. The document number is D222/1.17, and the Khmer ERN is, the English ERN, it is only in English, is 003969998, and it relates to this issue. So with your permission, I would read the witness this excerpt for him to respond to.
The President, International Co-Prosecutor, you may proceed.
I must note, Mr. President, that counsel was on his feet this morning preventing us from using statements such as this. In fact, statements much more directly within the knowledge of the witness. So unless he can, our position is that in order to use documents like this, there has to be a demonstration that they're directly within the knowledge of the witness. Unless he can demonstrate that, and unless he can satisfy the requirements that he was imposing on us this morning, he's going to need to do that, in our view, in order to be able to properly use this document.
It is very straightforward, Mr. President. I have imposed no such conditions on the prosecution. My objection, if you want to read it back into in the transcripts, was that the prosecution has to first lay a foundation first has to ask an open question. The prosecution did not do that. It went straight to the document. I asked an open question. I asked the witness, do you know why the doctors abandoned the hospital? The witness has provided an answer. Now it is time for me to confront him with information contained in a book by a Cambodia scholar. In response to that, the witness can either acknowledge that he is familiar with such information or can contradict such a thing. But again, the proper procedure, and that was the basis for my objection this morning, is first ask open questions, then go to the underlying documents. We do not object to using documents or statements ever, or let me not phrase it in such an absolute sense. The Nuon Chea team has always said that documents and statements should be allowed to use. The only thing I objected to was the proper modality to do so. So with your permission, I would like to read the witness this excerpt from Michael Vickery's book.
The chamber wishes to hand over to Judge Laveagna to respond to the request made by counsel for Mr. Nuon Chea concerning the way the current question being put. Judge Laveagna, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Chamber needs to be consistent with itself and previously rendered decisions, and there is not any particular interest here in quoting the book of Michael Vickery to substantiate the question. I think you can use the substance of the information contained in Michael Vickery's book, but Michael Vickery himself is not a witness to these facts. He was not present in Phnom Penh at the time, and I don't really see the interest of drawing on this kind of reference. So you are authorized to ask open questions to the witness, and as was the case this morning for the prosecution. But there is no reason that you should be authorized to expressly quote in detail that book by Michael Vickery. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, but it hasn't become much clearer to us by now what the standards are for using these documents. I realize that Michael Vickery was not in Phnom Penh at the time, but the same goes for, let's say, David Chandler, Philip Short, and all these other witnesses that will be heard by the trial chamber. They're considered to be experts. They have made findings, and that information is either correct or incorrect. And that's exactly what the defense is trying to do, to verify whether those expert opinions and whether those scholarly treatises are based on fact or are indeed entirely incorrect. So we simply do not understand which expert writings we can use and which expert writings we cannot use, and why not. And as to following your own rulings, for example, Philip Short has been quoted by the prosecution in questions, has been quoted by the prosecutor that is sitting here today, has been quoted by Mr. Abdul Haq, and has been quoted by Mr. Smith. So these writings have been used by all the parties. And our simple purpose is to verify what the truth is. And these writings can assist the chamber in that. So I don't want to sound too much like posing obstacles that are not there. But what is the interest in verifying this information that is contained in these writings with this witness who was there at the time? He can give us his opinion. So is it possible for the chamber to formulate a coherent ruling on which expert statements and writings can be used and which statements by, for example, witnesses, random witnesses, can be used? Because we are in the dark and we simply cannot prepare an effective line of questioning in this manner. So is it possible for the chamber to formulate a coherent line on these issues?
The President, International Court Prosecutor, you may now proceed.
Just a couple of points, Your Honor. Counsel only seems to have a problem with the court's rules when it's his turn to ask questions. He did not seem to have a problem with the court's rules when he was making objections this morning. Let me make something clear in terms of our position. We used Philip Short's book when he was quoting statements from interviews he had done of Pipon when Pipon was testifying. Clearly, that's a clear situation where information in the book is not Philip Short's opinions, but is his recording of a statement from the witness who's on the stand. There are a lot of situations where there is clearly a legitimate foundation to use it. What the court has made clear, and what counsel is just pretending to ignore, is that witnesses should not be confronted with opinions of experts. Now, if the section of Mr. Vickery's book that counsel wishes to use is an interview of this witness, or even a witness interview of someone who was in this witness's battalion, we would have no objection because he would be being confronted with factual information from a witness that was within his area of knowledge. I suspect that is not the case. I suspect counsel simply wishes to read Mr. Vickery's opinion or conclusions and bounce them off the witness. And I think the court has made clear that that's inappropriate. So I think that when counsel feigns a lack of understanding of why he's being prevented from doing this, I think he's very well of why he's not being allowed to use Michael Vickery's book.
The President, the Chamber has already ruled upon this. Counsel, you are now instructed to continue putting questions to the witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will continue, and Mr. Witness, Mr. Sumchia, you have stated before the OCIJ and also today that you had heard stories that the East Zone Army was the harshest, and you also explained that you had been told about this by people from your group. Did the people from your group tell you in which sense the Eastern Zone forces were the harshest? What did they do? Did they give examples when they told these stories?
Response. The policy was harsh and was about making sure that the population had to be evacuated from the city.
As far as you are aware, during your time in Phnom Penh, did you ever see Eastern Zone forces in Phnom Penh?
Response. The East Zone people were covering the stretches of road from Satmai to the north direction, the road that links Satmai to the north, and the southwest would be covering the western part of the city, somewhere near Pochentong Airport.
And how do you know that that was the division of the city?
Response. The city was divided according to different zones. For example, Buen would be in charge of one section of the city, while the other sections would be then managed by other representatives of different zones.
And you just mentioned that the Eastern Zone forces occupied a stretch of Phnom Penh starting from Sar Chmei. How do you know that the Eastern Zone forces were occupying that stretch of the city?
Response. The area was divided Of course, from Satmai to the south would be managed by the Eastern Zone troops, when the southwest troop or zone would be covering from Satmai to the west.
I will try to ask the question in a different way. Did you personally ever see soldiers from the East Zone?
Response: No, I didn't. People in my unit said that people who were stationed to the south of Satmai were those from the Eastern Zone.
And do you know whether the soldiers from the Eastern Zone dressed in the same way as the other Khmer Rouge soldiers, or did they have a different outfit?
Response: They wore the same clothes, the black shirt and trousers.
And you have stated that your forces were also stationed around Wat Phnom. Do you know whether there were also Eastern Zone forces around Wat Phnom?
Response: No, from Satmai to the riverfront was occupied by people from the north.
Mr. President, I can continue, but I look at the clock. Would now be an appropriate time to have a short break?
The President: Thank you, Council. Yes, indeed, it is now appropriate moment for the adjournment. We will adjourn for 20 minutes. The next session will be resumed by 3:10. Court officer is now instructed to assist the witness and his duty counsel during the recess and have them return to the courtroom by 3:10. The court is adjourned.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ